Hi, my name is Matteo and this is my VR lap at Donington. So let's check the lap now and we'll talk about it later. Alright, so there was a 113.718. Just a little bit of tech info. So there was a partly cloudy 18 degrees air, 20 degrees track. What I did was just to push the test drive button in the beta UI under this week's free practice. So let's go back to the beginning of the lap. Should be around here. Okay, so welcome to Donington. It's in Great Britain. I love Donington. I love Brands Hatch. I love this twisty fast tracks, which are not super technical, but they are still treacherous, because you still need to keep the car down. This is kind of like Monza, where you don't have that many corners, because with this car and the amount of downforce that you have, a lot of corners are just taken flat out. So there are not many corners, but in those corners you really want to nail them, and especially the S's. That's a corner that can gain you or lose you 1 second. So keeping a good pace in this track will be very challenging. So another thing that I want to say before we start to check the lap, in this track here, there's a lot of missing visual cues, braking marks, accelerating marks, etc. So it's really a track where you need to develop your instinct. So you just have to know where that apex will be. My only suggestion is to practice and practice and practice, because developing this instinct will just happen with time and practice, of course. Another tip that I can give you, as a musician, I rely on the rhythm of the track. You can call it like that. That means that kind of in an unconscious way, can I say that? Is that a word? I measure the time between my actions or between the other visual cues that I find around. So this is not the best method, of course. If you have a visual cue, just use it, because that's plain better. It's a fallible method, of course, but it gets the job done when it's necessary, like in this case, where in many corners you don't have any cues for where to brake or start or turn in, and so it's good to use it, at least if you're able to feel the rhythm of the track and of your actions. Alright then, we start right away on the Westcroft Straight, and we're heading into the Redgate corner. So if you're coming, especially during the free practices, of course, if you're coming from the pit lane into the track, be very careful about cars that are incoming, because Just as Phillip Island, the braking zone is all the way into the pit exit line. So what you want to do is get half of the car across this line here. Don't get more than half of the car, otherwise you will get an incident point for leaving the track. You go 2 gears down or 3 gears down. I actually go 3 gears down because I get a very short gearing. Otherwise, if you're using a slightly longer gearing, you don't need to use the 6th gear. You can just leave the 5th until the end of the straight. And you go down to 3rd gear. The braking mark is pretty much halfway this dotted line here. What you want to do is brake hard but smoothly. You don't want to slam the brakes like in other braking points. You just want the car to decrease its speed fast, so it's not like it's very a heavy braking zone. Then you want to touch the apex and then throttle away as fast as you can. So I'm braking, I'm turning in, and then when I turn in, the apex is pretty much here, I think, where the asphalt meets grass. So you want to touch this part of the corner here, and then as soon as you touched it, you start accelerating smoothly but consistently, and then track out. Don't use the sand here, of course, because it's also off cambered. Just use the curb here, but track out correctly. Don't try to keep the car inside too much, because otherwise you will spin. And then you're out of the first corner. Then it's turn 2 and turn 3, which are the Craner curves. And we're getting into turn 4, which is the old hairpin. First of all, be very careful because this is an attack zone. At least it was with the Formula Renault 2.0. I haven't raced yet in here with the 3.5, but it was during the 2.0 era. So I don't know if this will be possible using draft, but it might be that cars will start lining on the inside, and this will get hairy very fast. So be very careful about this and don't overdo this turn here. So what you want to do here is keep the car on the left side. You get plenty of downforce to do that. Instead, like with the Formula Renault 2.0, we used to track out all the way to the right and then go back in. You don't have this problem here, so you want to get to this curb here, get your wheels onto the curb. As soon as you meet the curb, you lift completely and start to turn in. You turn the car in, you touch the apex, and you start accelerating out. You know, what you can also do to help yourself with this corner is to just slightly touch the brakes, just like 10% or something. This is very much brush braking, not even trail braking. It's brush braking. You touch the brakes and you downshift into 5th, especially if you have longer gearing. But if you're like me using a shorter gearing, just try to keep as much speed as you can throughout the corner, and then accelerate at the apex. You don't want to start accelerating here. You want to accelerate right away there, so plan your grip accordingly. And then when you track out, don't go over here because that's very dangerous. As you can see, I just used all the track that was available to me. And then we're on Starkey's Bridge, turn 5 and 6, which are pretty much flat out. Keep your car all the way to the left here. Watch this sign here because a bit later than this sign, so that's why you have to keep a rhythm. A bit later than this sign, you start braking for turn 7, which is McLean's. You go 3 down to 3rd, but it's actually 2 down into 4th. Then you wait, and then you get into 3rd when you're closer to the apex. Okay, let me get the speed down a little bit. Whoa, too much. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're here. Let's go. Okay, now we're here. Okay, this is good. We're getting to turn 7, McLean's. 3 down, braking smoothly. Trail braking slightly into the corner, especially because trail braking will help getting the car to turn in. So the back will slide just a little bit. Then you touch the apex, and when you're on the apex you start accelerating, but start aiming for the exit of the corner. Watch here, you have to look in this on this curb here on the exit of the corner. Stop looking in here and start looking at this side here, so it's gonna be easier. And if you see that you're still losing the car and you can't accelerate properly, just short shift into fourth, even if you're not all the way up with the RPMs. Just upshift into fourth earlier, and that should help you with traction control. So you track out correctly and you're out. And we're going into copies. Let me get back a little bit. Copies is a blind corner, so you don't see the apex, and there are no braking marks and no, of course, turning marks. So this is another turn that is completely up to the driver to take. What I do is I judge. Of course, I'm using VR, so it's easier to gauge the depth, but I'm using the track becoming an upslope, which is approximately here to start braking. So yeah, kind of like here. Then I turn in and I just hope and pray that the apex is where I expect it to be. I remember at the beginnings, first times that I used to drive this track, this was actually the hardest part, and it was very frustrating. Now I kind of got an instinct for it, and I just do it. And then when you're on the apex, you start accelerating, but you're just locking the differential. You keep the car there and start putting up some speed. You're actually waiting for the apex, which should be here, because this is you should consider this like kind of a double apex corner. So when you're at the apex, which is kind of like here, I will show you right now after we're out with the flyover. So kind of right here, there's the apex, so you can start putting down the foot 100%. Wait the car to be straight, of course, and don't push the car inwards, otherwise you risk of losing it. Keep the car nice and smoothly on the outside and get out of here. And I prepared, since last time it worked so great, flyover of the corner, so you can understand how it works. Alright, so as you can see, the corner is like, this is the entry. This is not the apex, but it's like mid entry of the corner. Then you got the apex here, and then the corner goes out here. So the curve is like some sort of like this. Okay, I'm not very precise with the mouse, but you should see it. So by all means, this means that you're entering here, you're braking here, you're entering here, you keep your speed up because it's on an upslope, so you can do that. You wait for the car to get straight here, and then you start accelerating out of the apex, and that is the corner. Yes, so that was the copies, which is one of the hardest corners in this track. Then we're on Starkey Straight, which is an attack zone, so be careful. And it's also the best DRS place of the track. And we're getting into the S's, which is a corner that can gain or lose you even 1 second. I use this building here where the fence begins and the building ends as a braking marker. I start braking before this, so you can see kind of like here. And what I'm doing is I'm braking hard into third, but I try to keep the third high, so not a low third but a high third. My line is to just slam the car in, keep as more momentum as I can, then I use the throttle to keep the car stable, and then I start accelerating when I'm out of the corner. This is not the faster line, but it's the more stable. The actual fastest line is to slow down more and start accelerating here at the apex, but this is very difficult to do. So if you're able to do it and keep the throttle down throughout the whole S, that's better. Otherwise, if you're like me, having confidence problems with this corner here, you can do it like me. So you're braking third high, you slam the car in, then you start accelerating when you're out. The very important thing with this corner is that when you get here, this is very important to understand. You don't have to turn in until you're out of the corner. So when you're here, now I was just a little bit too deep to let you understand this concept properly. But what you want to do is to go out from here in a straight line, and then you start turning out of the track when you get grip. This was the same concept that we used in the Formula Renault 2.0. So you go out and then you start turning. It's not like you're here and you're already turning like this. You have to go out, there's a lot of space, and then you start turning. So keep the wheel straight. You see, I'm even straightening the wheel a little bit. Then you start turning here. Oh yeah, and you, by all means, short shift to fourth throughout the S if you need it. That's really useful. And also always remember that when you're going over difficult curbs like the one on the second pin, you definitely have to lift just a little bit, like 10-15% if you're full throttle there, so you don't lose the back. Alright, we're heading towards second to last corner, which is turn 11, the Melbourne hairpin. This is also an attack zone, especially if you screw up the S's. The worst thing you can do into this corner is to brake late. The problem is where to brake. There's the slope going down. It's starting to slope down in here. Plus here there's this little curb coming out. I don't know how to explain that, but on the track you should kind of see in it. So you can use these as references for when to brake. I'm using most of it all. I'm using the track starting to slope. So now the track is going down here. Did you see that? It was sloping a bit more, so that I started braking here. Don't brake too late, because the worst thing that you can do, as I said before, is to brake late and miss the apex. I will show you another flyover for this turn here, because this is another treacherous turn. It looks like the apex is kind of here, but it's not really like that, because the whole turn is slanted. So you're getting in, and it seems like you got in too fast, but it's actually the turn that is made like this. So the word I used to do a mistake here yesterday when I was testing the car here, and I used to go wider here, starting accelerating earlier and go wider here, and I was losing a lot of time. The correct way to do this is to keep the car inside all the way until the curb is basically over, and then you start tracking out when you're out of it. I will show you. Yes, I will show you the flyover so you can understand it better. As you can see, look at here. This curb here is a bit more square, if you want. So you're heading this way here, even if the apex is kind of here, because you see it's not a geometrically correct curve. It's not round. It's like slightly squared and it's slanted. So this curve here is different from this one. So you're heading into this curve here, tracking out a little bit, and you start accelerating. And the error that I was doing was that I kept too much speed throughout the corner, so the car was trucking out here, and I had to accelerate like this. This was just bad. I was leaving a lot of time here, even if it didn't feel like that. When I started braking more into the corner, getting here slower so I could keep the car closer to the curb and then exit like this, I recovered like probably half a second or something like that. So I will show it to you again. Yeah, and you can start to understand now what I mean. Alright, we're heading now into the last corner, which is Goddard's, turn 12. And it's kind of like this corner here, but on the other side. So you get onto the curb and kind of like halfway through the length of the curb, you start braking. Again, don't bring too much speed into the party here. And you have to head for, oh damn, there's a mirror. Okay, there's a kink here in the curb, and that's your apex. That's where you want to aim. Even if you stay very wide and very deep, but the place where you want to be with the car when you're trucking out, trucking in then to start truck out, is this kink that you have here. So I have another flyover, don't worry. Here it is. As you can see, the fact that the curb is not geometrically correct and it feels like it's broken in here, but it's following some sort of I don't know, ground shape or something, so it's not drawn but it's built, we can maybe say that. Makes it kind of difficult to understand what you're actually doing throughout the corner. So this exit curb here is kind of, you can say it's correct, while the entry curb, it's kind of weird. So this kink here is what I was telling you before. You see here that when you get with the car from here, you see it very well. So target this place here to put your front wheel on, and then from here on you just truck out and accelerate out into the straight. So that was it. This was Stonington. I love this track, and I hope you will love to after you get to know it and understand it. Alright, take care, have fun during the track, and be safe. Bye.